I have assembled the ethical rattatas, a team of the most vile gremlins ever to set foot in the competitive Pokemon arena. With Sneasler and Ursaluna at the helm, this grassy terrain team is pursuing the ultimate goal, winning their first ever Pokemon Draft League. They will be competing against 15 other teams over 8 weeks, with only one team being crowned the winner. This is week 8, the final battle. If the ethical rattatas win, they qualify for the playoff tournament. If they lose, they'll be going home empty-handed. With everything on the line, they face off against the Roserades. Iron Treads is an amazing generalist. It gives you all the hazard control you'll need with Stealth Rocks and Rapid Spin. It's fast, and it goes even faster with Booster Energy. It has an amazing defensive typing, fills a lot of defensive gaps in teams, and it can do it all. It can pivot, it's got a bunch of weird moves that you wouldn't expect. It's just a really nice Pokemon. It doesn't do anything amazingly. It's not the greatest sweeper, it's not the greatest wall breaker, but it's good at whatever you want it to do. Its stats are just, like, nice. They just look nice, right? It's pretty fast, it's pretty strong, it's got good physical bulk, its special bulk is not great, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. And the 72 special attack is not completely useless, because it kind of likes using Steel Beam and Volt Switch, even though they're special moves, for their other effects. It can hold a huge number of items. It really likes Booster Energy, makes it so fast. But it also likes Leftovers, it likes Assault Vest, it likes Eject Button if you want to do some fast pivoting. That one's more for rain teams, I think. Whatever you want Iron Treads to do, it'll do it. It's a Steel type, so it looks great on the type chart. Now I do have types to hit Iron Treads, both physically and specially. I've got fighting types, I've got fire types, so it's not going to wall me by itself. I have options to kill it, but it looks pretty nice. Steel just always makes you look great on the type chart. Offensively, it also looks pretty nice. It hits more than half of my team super effectively with a combination of ground and steel. The only real catch is that Orthworm is really good into it. It's really good because it resists steel and it heals from ground type attacks. So there's not that much Iron Treads can do. If we look at Iron Treads' coverage, it does get fighting type attacks, but it's not that easy to slot fighting type coverage on because it really wants stab options and it really wants Ice Spinner. Ice Spinner looks so good. Beats Ursaluna, Mandibuzz, and Rillaboom. Ice Spinner Iron Treads looks so strong against my team, but overall, offensively and defensively, it looks pretty good against my team. I'm giving Iron Treads a 7 out of 10. Although it can hit Ursaluna and Rillaboom super effectively, it doesn't do quite enough to kill them, and they'll KO it in return. It also is weird into Sneasler. Sneasler beats it by default, because it's faster and close combat kills. But Iron Treads can Booster Energy to outspeed Sneasler, but Sneasler can Unburden to outspeed Booster Energy. So there's some play in that matchup. They both have these one-time speed boosts, but it is in Sneasler's favour, I think, because Sneasler is faster naturally. And then the Orthworm shuts it down. So 7 out of 10 threat score, but it's definitely worth bringing. The hazard control alone makes it worth bringing, and the offenses are nothing to snooze at. Second, my opponent has Latios. Latios is the offensive member of the dynamic duo. It has pretty crazy stats. I mean, 600 BSG is what you'd like to see on a Pokemon, and it's really strong. 130 special attack, 110 speed. It's scary. It's an offensive threat. It can use Soul Dew, which has been nerfed. It's not nearly as good as it used to be, but it's still good. It boosts the power of your Dragon and Psychic type moves. It can also use the buffed Luster Purge. Luster Purge is now pretty good. Luster Purge has been bad for most of its lifespan, but in Gen 9 it's finally good. It has 95 base power, so it's a bit stronger than Psychic, and a 50% chance to lower the opponent's special defense. So it's kind of just an objectively better Psychic with less PP, and that can come into play because having only 8 PP is a bit rough, but it's still really, really strong. Latios is good with Specs, it's good with... In Pokemon OU, when you can choose either Latios or Latias, you typically see the defensive sets on Latias and the offensive sets on Latios. In Draft League, their stats are pretty similar, they can both do both. Latios can go more defensive, because obviously your opponent only has Latios at their disposal, and its defenses are still fine. 80, 110 is fine special. Bulk and Calm Mind is pretty good. The typing actually synergizes really nicely with Iron Treads. They have no overlapping weaknesses, which is great. You can always switch between them. And they cover a lot of each other's problems. Latios resists every single one of Iron Treads' weaknesses. It resists fire, it resists water, it resists fighting, and it's immune to ground. That's amazing. That's all you could ask for in a partner. And Iron Shreds resists some of Latios' weaknesses too. It resists Fairy, it resists Dragon, it resists Bug. So all in all, a really nice sort of offensive-defensive core. Latios' offensive coverage is not that great against my team. I have nothing weak to Dragon, I don't have a Dragon type, and my only psychic weakness is Sneasler. Latios gets lots of nice coverage, though it can hit most things. It really likes Ice Beam, and it really likes Energy Ball. Between those two moves it can hit most of the problems. It also likes Aura Sphere because it needs something to hit Orthworm. It can run Surf for the 4x effective hit into Arcanine Hisui, but that doesn't really help it with anyone else. The other option it might consider is Shadow Ball, which has pretty good neutral coverage into my team, and lets it hit Hatterene through effectively. Because Hatterene is kind of a problem for Latios. They can both set up Carmine, but Hatterene will eventually win the Carmine war. So, yeah, Latios has a lot of options. It's one of those times where my opponent is going to have to choose which moves they bring, and if I can figure out what those moves are, I'll have a Pokemon that can deal with Latios, but I won't know which one of my Pokemon is their Latios answer until we get into battle. So I'm going to have to be very, very careful with who I send in, how I scout. I think Latios is really, really scary. So I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. I do have answers. My fairy types do beat it, which is good. I'm definitely bringing either Hatterene or Comfey. And then Orthworm kinda beats it, but not really. It does beat it if Latios doesn't run Aura Sphere, but if Latios runs Aura Sphere, then Orthworm is toast. But I can Terastallize Orthworm to resist an Aura Sphere and hit back, but I don't kill in one hit, and if I Terra Poison, I now am weak to Psychic. So, yeah, Orthworm beats Latios on paper, but like in practice I think it probably loses. So yeah, I don't think Latios is a 10 out of 10 strong Pokemon. I do have options, but it is my opponent's number one threat, I think, that they're bringing to this battle. Third, we have Mienshao. Mienshao is a very, very interesting pick. It's a Regenerator Pokemon, and as we'll see, they have a Regenerator core going on in this battle, with 2 Regenerator Pokemon they can switch between. Mienshao is the first one, and I didn't know much about it before I was doing research for this battle. Its stats are actually kind of nice. It is strong, it's fast. It's really squishy though. It's really frail. 65, 60, 60 is rough. And that weakness means Regenerator can't really be used to its highest potential, because Mienshao is just in risk of getting one-shotted by a stray breeze. With Regenerator, you want to be able to tank hits and sponge them off and heal back. Mienshao can do that, like it can probably take one hit if it's not too strong, but I wouldn't count on this weasel to weasel its way out of more powerful threats. You can see on the moves, it doesn't use any utility moves. You can't run Fake Out with Choice Scarf very effectively, but you can run Fake Out and Life Orb, or you can run Choice Scarf and then 4 attacks, usually Knock Off, U-Turn and Close Combat are always there, and then a coverage move. Defensively, it's not adding that much to the team. It does give my opponent a Dark resistance, so that if they have Latios and I switch into Dark type, they can switch to Mienshao. But my Dark type is Mandibuzz, who has Flying type moves, and kind of beats Mienshao anyway, so it's not that helpful in this case. It also doubles up on the Fairy weakness with Latios. So I'm thinking, okay, my Fairy types look great here. I want to bring Comfey or Hatterene. Maybe both, but they do lose to Iron Shreds, so probably not both. But one or the other, definitely. Offensively, fighting is fine against my team. It beats some things. It beats Arcanine, it beats Ursaluna and Orthworm, but it loses again to both fairies, and now it can't hurt Sneasler either. The coverage is pretty good. It ruins Rillaboom's day. Poison, Ice, and Flying are all you need to hit the rest of my team, except for Lantern. But Lantern's physical bulk is kind of bad, so Close Combat will be fine. For Lantern, I think a Choice Scarf Mienshao is a totally reasonable thing to bring to the coming battle. I give it a 4 out of 10. It's not something I'm that worried about. I don't think it's going to win my opponent the game, but I don't think it's going to do nothing either. I think it will be perfectly usable. It'll probably get some good chip on me. It'll get my opponent some momentum. It might even get a kill. I'm not worried about it sweeping through my entire team, though. In 4th place, we have Slowking, Baroness Charlesy. Now, I kind of like this picture of the King of England. He's actually the king of my country. I live in New Zealand, and we're in the Commonwealth, so we worship the king. He's on our money, he's in our minds. We say, "Long live the king," every morning when we wake up. I kind of like it. You know, I get that it makes him look like a fascist overlord, like a kind of blood-stained war creature who's stalked out from the battlefield to glower over his enemies. But don't you think that's kind of good? Like, isn't that kind of what you want from a king? Like a dictatorial demon? I don't know. And he's got a butterfly, and I'm an entomologist, so I love butterflies. I am pro King Charles evil portrait. Are you pro evil portrait? Let me know in the comments. If you hate the portrait, that's fair. It is kind of insane. And if you're actually from Britain, then you can have a real opinion. And also, hi from the colonies. Although we don't like to be thought of as a colony overmore because it was kind of messed up what we did. But anyway, here's Slowking. Slowking is another regenerated Pokemon. So it works pretty well with me and Shao. And Slowking actually has the bulk to back up the ability. It is really specially bulky. Physical bulk is fine, but you usually use it as a special wall. It has pretty good moves. It's one of the few Pokemon that actually get Scold after the distribution cut down. And of course it gets Chilly Reception, which is a great pivoting move. Sets up the Hail. It's looking so slow that it usually comes out with negative priority, and it synergizes so well with Regenerator. So Slowking is pretty scary. Pairing Psychic with things often gives you a bunch of weaknesses. So Slowking's type is a bit annoying, but it works pretty well here. It overlaps really heavily with Latios, because they're both Psychic types, and that kind of sucks for my opponent. But at the same time, because it's a Psychic type like Latios, it works really well with Iron Treads. It's also an Ice Resist for my opponent's team, which is good because they didn't have one, and Latios wants an Ice Resist on the team. Thing is, Latios and Slowking sharing a resistance isn't that helpful because of all the weaknesses that they share. Offensively, it is fine. It's pretty good. I don't have anything that resists water and Psychic, but it's a defensive Pokemon, so we don't have to worry too much about the offensive power. The coverage is nice. It only can't hit Comfey, but it will beat Comfey probably anyway because it's got so much special bulk, and Comfey is pretty weak. Yeah, Slowking just looks nice. I mean, Chilly Reception Regenerator is pretty much always good. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. I know it's pretty high for a Pokemon like this that isn't going to win the game on its own, but I think it's really important not to undervalue Slowking's supportive potential. The pivoting is great, the special defense is great, and it's another answer to my Sneasler that also beats my Ursaluna. These two are my big threats. If you can beat both, which Slowking can, you're kind of doing great. This creature can take a Blood Moon, pivot out, and heal it back off, and get something in that beats Ursaluna. So Ursaluna's life is made a lot worse by Slowking, and that alone makes it worth, I think, a 7 out of 10. In 5th, we have Mismagius. Mismagius is really interesting. I remember when Gen 4 first came out. I was in primary school, and my friend and I were walking around the tree where people who didn't have their hats had to sit. So you have to bring your hat to primary school. And if you didn't have your hat, there's a tree, like a big tree. I don't know what kind of tree it was. But in my mind, it was like the most enormous tree ever, because I was like tiny little guy, and so everything looked big. And every lunchtime, there'd be a sort of ring of downtrodden students who weren't allowed to play in the sun because they didn't have hats. And there was one time when my friend and I were walking past the hat tree. We had our hats on, so we were allowed to walk. We could kind of gloat at the prisoners. And we were talking about the new Pokemon games. And he was telling me about this Pokemon called Missing No. Now, we know what Missing No is, right? We know the Cinnabar Island glitch and all this. But to my young mind, I was like 8 or 9, I had no idea what Missing No was. I was like, what the heck? This sounds amazing. And he was like, yeah. So there's going to be an evolution for Misdreavus called Mismagius. I think the game had come out, but we didn't have our hands on it. He was like, yeah, there's this Pokemon called Mismagius, which is the evolution of Misdreavus. But there's a secret third evolution called Missing No. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to use Missing No when I get my hands on Pokemon Diamond, but I didn't have a Nintendo DS. I only had a Game Boy Advance, so I didn't expect to be able to ever get my hands on a MissingNo. But then my parents got me Pokemon Diamond for my birthday, and I was so happy. But obviously, that's not how you get MissingNo. I could have had it already if I had managed to get my hands on a copy of Pokemon Red. But I didn't have that, and all I had was my childhood delusions. But they were kind of creepy, and I do like the weird mystery around MissingNo. Which all goes to say, Mismagius is weird. If you've seen Fluttermane, Mismagius is very, very similar to Fluttermane, except worse. It also has this thing of the physical stats, HP, attack, defense being low, and the special stats being high. But Fluttermane just has them way higher. Mismagius can't compete. You know, it's like, Mum, can we have Fluttermane? No, Billy, we've got Fluttermane at home. Fluttermane at home, right? Here's Fluttermane at home. It's okay. I mean, it's got Levitate, which Fluttermane doesn't have, but it's basically the same thing, but worse. My opponent has chosen to be able to terrestrialize it, which is interesting, and they've chosen Fire and Fairy as their Tera types, which makes perfect sense. Fire is kind of great because you have Mystical Fire, which you like, so you can get stab on that, and you have Levitate, so you ignore the ground weakness of Fire types. And then Fairy is just a nice Tera type in general, good defensively, and you've got Fairy type moves, so you can boost their power. 2. For my opponent's team, it looks okay. It doubles up on a bunch of resistances. It does make them really weak to Ghost and Dark now. Ghost in particular is horrific for my opponent. They have no resistances to it yet. It's the only type they don't have resistances to, and 3 weaknesses. Now Mismagius can Terra and get around that, but I wouldn't say it looks great on the type chart. Offensively, it also looks kind of bad. It loses to Mandibuzz and Ursaluna, really badly to Ursaluna. Ursaluna is immune to Ghost. It can hit both of them, but Mandibuzz is so bulky that Power Gem isn't gonna do enough. It's not gonna do more than 50%. Mandibuzz will just roost it off. And Ursaluna isn't going to die from a grass type move, and it will kill back with Blood Moon. So I think Mismagius has some real problems against my team. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. Part of the reason for that is that I think my opponent's other Tera option is better, and I think they only want to bring one of their 2 Tera options. But even aside from that, it doesn't really beat anything on my team. The only thing it actually beats is Hatterene. Everything else it just loses to. It can do weird stuff with Tera and Calm Mind. Like, it can make predictions and try to snowball. But I don't think it's likely to succeed. I mean, maybe there's a once in a blue moon scenario where I give my opponent 3 free turns and they win with Calm Mind, but it's not really fast enough to do that. I have way too much counterplay. I just don't think it's great. If it was Fluttermane, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. But it's not Fluttermane. It's Mismagius. And it's sad. Next up we have MacLeod. It's like Psychedelic Muck. Psychedelic Muck is pretty good. Muck stats, I think, have aged pretty well. I think that as the baseline for being fast has increased, these Pokemon who are slow are more happy to have slow speed. It used to be that if you had 90 speed, you were like, pretty quick. But these days, I don't know, like 90 speed doesn't feel the same as it used to be. So Muck, although it only has 500 BST, is kind of happy that it has only 50 invested into speed. And its bulk is good, especially on the special side. 105-100 is good. The attack is enough, and the Alolan form of Muck, this one, really likes being a poison dark type. It has famously only one weakness, to ground, which my opponent can deal with because they've got 2 levitators. And it has nice resistances in return, especially a ghost resistance. My opponent needed that because they were struggling against ghost. But the dark resist is good, the grass resist is good, and my opponent's team shuts down psychics so hard now that they've added a dark type immunity. The offenses are pretty good against my team, with the exception of Sneasler. Now, if you've been a long time watcher, you might remember in week 1 or 2, I faced a Kanto Muck, and I said the same thing. I said the offenses are good, except for Sneasler. And I kind of went back and forth. I was like, does Sneasler beat Muck? Does Muck beat Sneasler? And they both resist each other. And then I realized, as I realize now, that Muck gets a Zen Headbutt. So although Muckalola can't hit Sneasler with its stab, it has 4 times effective coverage. So it can deal with Sneasler just fine. In fact, the biggest actual problem for Muck is Orthworm. Orthworm is immune to the poisoning from Poison Touch, and Drain Punch, Muck's fighting type move, isn't going to do that much because of Orthworm's defensive stat. Overall, though, I give it an 8 out of 10. My team, even after the changes, doesn't like poison types. They're really annoying. Muck can click poison type moves and get those poison type procs and just wear me down. And it destroys my fairies, and I was hoping to bring the fairies to this battle, at least one, but Muck just ruins their day. It also switches in on Rillaboom really nicely. I can try to predict with high horsepower and hit the Muck, but it's unreliable at best. Thankfully, Muck does lose to Blood Moon Ursaluna, and I need some way to bring Blood Moon Ursaluna in. Still, I give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's really, really annoying for me to deal with. I hate how it can just switch in on Hatterene for free, because it's immune to the Psychic type attacks, and the neutral fairy type moves aren't going to do that much because it's so specially defensive. It'll force Hatterene out, it can make progress with knockoff, it can even poison me with Poison Touch knockoff. It just sounds obnoxious. Next up is Klefki. Klefki is a set of keys, and it just makes me think of Twilight Town, of that summer vacation that could have lasted forever, but only lasted instead 358.5 days. I think the actual title of that game is 358 half days, but I thought it was 358.5 days. Wonderful game. If you haven't played Kingdom Hearts Days, however many days, you should. I mean, it's aged pretty badly, and the actual mechanics aren't good, but the storyline is nice. I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan. I know it's like a manic dream episode where nothing makes sense and everything's all over the place, but it's kind of lovely, and I just like Roxas. Roxas is an icon. And his keys, you can see them up there. That's Oathbringer, and that's Oblivion, and I guess there's the Kingdom Key, and then there's the Ultima, all attached to the Klefki keyring. The keys are not doing Klefki any favors in the statistical department. Klefki stats are bad. All over the place bad. 57 HP, oof. I was trying to be defensive. Yuck. Defense is 9187, I mean, okay, but it's not amazing. Offense is bad, speed isn't bad, but it has Prankster, so who cares, right? Speed, 75, doesn't matter. It's going first with Prankster, and it can do a lot of annoying things. It has Spikes, Thunderwave, and Screens. Those are the obvious claims to fame, along with Foul Play to actually do some damage. But it has a huge number of weird other utility moves. It has Switcheroo, it has Magnet Rise, it has Rain Dance to clear the weather. It has heaps of these strange moves that can get priority on. It's very unpredictable. It can hold a Toxic Orb or a Lacking Tail and trick them, Switcheroo them. It can heal with Leftovers, it can run Light Clay for Screens. It's just a really obnoxious Pokemon. It's a Steel type, so naturally it looks pretty good on the type chart. And offensively, Steel Fairy is pretty good, but it doesn't matter because Klefki's only clicking Foul Play anyway. The coverage is pathetic, it only has Psychic and Dark, but it might actually want to run Psychic move to hit Sneasler. With the 4 times invested boost, even an uninvested, weakish attack can do a major chunk or kill Sneasler. Overall, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. It's not amazing. It can't win any matchup by itself, but it can make a lot of progress while sitting around being annoying, and it can help out its other teammates in a lot of different ways. And it's so unpredictable. I don't even know if I've thought of what my opponent is going to bring, because who knows, right? It's a gremlin, it's a fiend, it's a poltergeist. I'm scared of it, even though it doesn't do much of anything directly. Next, we have Scyther. This is a public service announcement. If you are in South Africa, I want you to know that the mantis that has come from your country to mine is causing an immense amount of havoc, because our praying mantises, the New Zealand praying mantis, have a blue stripe on their forelimb. You can actually see it in this photo here. If you look up here, this blue stripe on the forelimb, this little blue patch, the praying mantis has one on both sides. There'll be one under here too. This is the unique trait of our praying mantis, and they are really cool, but I've never seen one in my life. And I'm an entomologist, and I've never seen one. I've seen, like, preserved dead ones, but I've never seen a living one. And that's because the South African praying mantis has invaded our country, and unlike our friendly ones, their praying mantis has a lovely feature where the female will eat the male after procreation. So they will conceive a child, and then the female praying mantis will consume the head of the male, which our ones don't do. Ours are just lovely couples. They kind of bond and they have a good time. We don't do the old cannibalism thing. But the South African ones do. Okay, so that sounds bad. There's a second problem, though. Our male praying mantises prefer to mate with South African ones than New Zealand ones. They are just more attracted to the South African praying mantis female than they are to the New Zealand praying mantis female, which means all of our male praying mantises are mating with the South African ones and then being eaten. And our female ones aren't having any babies, and the babies that come from the South African one are now half the South African one. They're kind of hybridizing, and the longer this goes on, the less the New Zealand one is represented in the gene pool until eventually they'll just cease to exist. There'll be some lingering genetic trace of them in the South African ones that we have here, but the blue patch and the charismatic charm will be erased. And that's real sad, and we don't like that. We're looking for ways to try to save the New Zealand praying mantis, but it doesn't look good for them. And it doesn't look great for Scyther either. It has offensive stats, which are about as well distributed as you can get with a 500 BST, but 500 is just not a very high BST. It does get Technician, which is nice because good flying stab is hard to come by, and 120 base power dual wing beat is basically as good as you can do if you're not a bird, because Scyther, not a bird, doesn't get Brave Bird. It can also do Aerial Ace for more consistent 90 base power attacking. Yeah, it's just a bug. My opponent has chosen to be able to terrestrialize it. Fighting and ground are their choices. Fighting makes a lot of sense because Scyther's other good move is close combat. If you can boost that, that is wonderful. Ground is nice too, it flips their electric weakness into a immunity, which is pretty good. Bug flying is a weird type. It has this 4 times rock weakness, which is, it's bad from like a direct battle perspective. Like my Arcanine Hisui is going to annihilate Scyther, but the 4 times weakness to rocks basically forces you to run heavy duty boots if you're running Scyther, which is a bit annoying. You would like to be able to run a different item, but there's just no way. You have to run boots if you want a chance of doing anything. The offenses are fine. You can't hit Orthworm or Arcanine. Arcanine just looks like a nightmare for Scyther. But you have close combat, and with close combat you can hit everything that resists bug and flying, and you can hit Ursaluna too. So it doesn't look too bad. It looks okay. I think that the moveset's pretty obvious. You just run dual wing beat, close combat, U-turn, probably sword stance. You could make an argument for defog if my opponent was really worried about hazards, but my team isn't great about putting up hazards, and Scyther's pretty squishy. So yeah, I think just sword stance, dual wing beat, close combat, U-turn is good. Overall, I give it a 5 out of 10. I think it's better than Mismagius as their Tera option, mostly because of how much better it does against my strong Pokemon. It beats Sneasler, it's really annoying for Sneasler, and although it loses to Ursaluna, it's too frail to survive a Blood Moon. It can Tera fighting and hit Ursaluna with a strong close combat, which won't quite kill, but it will kill if Ursaluna's chipped. I think it's annoying. It switches into Rillaboom too with its 4 times grass resistance. I don't think it's like amazing, but I think it has play. Even Arcanine Hisui, which should absolutely annihilate Scyther, takes a lot of damage from close combat. Next, the penultimate Pokemon is Graphii. Look at this eye. Aren't eye-eyes the most horrific creatures? The thing about eye-eyes is, I always forget how to spell the name. I'm like, is it A-I-A-I, like Graphii? Is it just 2-letter I's? No, it's I like I Captain. A-Y-E, A-Y-E. I Graphii, we might say. Graphii is funny. It's another prankster Pokemon, kind of like, same deal as Klefki. And it has similar stats, except the speed is a bit better. But still not great. I mean, it's still only 485 BST. It's pretty weak. Like Klefki, it has a bunch of weird utility moves. It has the Withers, it has Parting Shot, it has Encore. This is all good stuff. It has pretty good offensive, annoying moves too. It has Knockoff, it has U-turn, it can click Gunk Shot, which is very strong, and somewhat compensates for Graphii's weak attack stat. But I never know what to do with Graphii. Every time I've tried to use it, it's been kind of underwhelming. I All three of its abilities are usable. Prankster is the default, I think, but you can do Unburden sets. I've seen Mirror Herb Unburden. That's really interesting. It requires prediction. You have to switch in as your opponent clicks a setup move. But if you can switch it into a Swords Dance, and then you get the Swords Dance and the Unburden boost, that's pretty strong. It's pretty strong. It's a shame Graffia's stats aren't like 15% better. I think if they were, Graffia would actually be really good. Poison Normal is a weird type. Look at this. But it's fine. I don't have too much to say about Poison Normal. Offensively, it's kind of bad. I mean, it hits my fairies and grass with Gunk Shot, but it loses to Orthworm and Arcanine. Similar story to the last Pokemon. Fighting type coverage can deal with its major problems. I don't know, I give it a 5 out of 10 because it can do a lot of different things. I'm not like deathly threatened by it. It does beat my fairies. It kind of beats my Rillaboom, but it loses to my strong offensive Pokemon, Sneasler and Ursaluna. It gets shut down by Orthworm. Yeah, I'm not like sold on Graffia, but I think it's okay. And finally, Rotom Frost. Rotom Frost is a Rotom form, which means it at least has potential. The stats are there. The low base HP can be compensated for by putting EVs into HP. And the special attack is fine, the defenses are pretty good. We know about Rotom forms, we know that Rotom Wash is good. It's good with these stats. It's not meta-defining, but it's a really solid Pokemon. Electric Ice is amazing offensively, pretty terrible defensively, as you'd expect, right? Bolt Beam is a notorious offensive combo, but Ice is a notoriously bad defensive type. Blizzard also kind of sucks. If this thing got Ice Beam, it would be way better, but having to rely on Blizzard as your only Ice-type move is rough. It can be good, it is strong, but 70 accuracy is just terrifying. I hate having to use Focus Blast as a coverage move. Having to use it as stab? Oh, no thank you. But such is life for Rotom, the fridge. It gets Volt Switch and Discharge for electric-type moves. It gets all of the classic Rotom form, pranky status moves. It's fine. It's pretty good. And we can see, at last, my opponent's full defensive profile, which ends up being pretty balanced. They have resistances to every type, which is what you want out of a team. Now, of course, if you look at their normal resistances, one of them can be hit by Blood Moon. It's not actually a normal resist. The other two are weak to ground. But that's kind of how it always goes with Blood Moon. It just hits everything amazingly. My opponent has two types with more weaknesses than resistances, and those are Fire and Ghost. So Fire and Ghost are on my mind as pretty good coverage options. Hard for my opponent to deal with, especially Ghost looks pretty nice. They have Graffia and Muck, but neither of those are really strong. They probably don't want to come to the battle together. I think Ghost is really good. Unfortunately, I don't have a Ghost type. I don't have any way to deal Ghost type damage really at all except for Shadow Ball Hatterene and Shadow Ball Sneasler. But neither of those are very strong or very reliable. Bolt Beam is funnily not great against my team. Lantern is one of the few Pokemon in the entire game that resists Bolt Beam. Volabsorb makes it immune to electric, and water makes it resist ice. So I can actually cope with Bolt Beam. It's fine. It only beats 3 of my Pokemon. I don't think the electric type is actually doing anything for my opponent. Ice is just better. They could just bring Blizzard and utility moves, except that Blizzard sucks. And they probably do want to bring Discharge, so they have some kind of damage that actually reliably hits me. Yeah, I don't know. Rotom Frost is like almost good, but then you think about it and maybe it's not as good as it seems. I'm giving it a 6.5. It has the strength on paper. It has the moves on paper. I just don't know if it beats me. I mean, Sneasler just beats it. It beats Ursaluna if it hits Blizzard, but there's a really high chance it doesn't hit Blizzard. I mean, 30% is high enough that I would be a bit afraid if I was my opponent and I had to click it to win the game. It loses hard to Arcanine and Hisui. It loses softly to Hatterene. I'm not that convinced by Rotom Frost. So, the last thing to do is to look at my opponent's speed distribution. Their slow Pokemon are Slowking and Muck, both still faster than Hatterene, but pretty darn slow. And then we have my middle-of-the-range Pokemon. We have Ursaluna and the Terra Captains. And I'm glad Ursaluna outspeeds Muck. It's pretty close. We might get into a speed creep war, but neither of us really want to invest in speed. Knowing that I naturally outspeed it is a relief to me. Then there's Klefki. which doesn't matter that much because it's clicking Prankster anyway. Then there's Rotom Frost, which is 2 base speed faster than Rillaboom. That's pretty annoying. They probably want to go Timid Max. I probably want to go Jolly Max. Their Blizzard will beat me. But Arcanine Hisui being slightly faster is great for me. So on the balance, I'm not so unhappy. And then look at this. Most of my opponent's team are really tightly constrained in the speed band. We have Scyther, Mismagius, and Mienshao with identical base speeds, 105. We have Iron Treads with 106. And then we have Graphii and Latios with 110. They're very, very constrained, which is nice. It means that I can quite easily EV my team to beat them. I can boost my slower Pokemon up to 257, and I'll outspeed a whole bunch of things unless they invest in speed. I can give Sneasler just enough EVs to hit 351 and outspeed everything I need to. It's a shame I don't have more Pokemon that are faster than my opponent's speed block. They're all pretty quick. But it makes my speed prep pretty easy, seeing how condensed all of their speed is. Here are my final rankings. This is just the ratings converted to a percentage for my opponent's team. The green are what I'm expecting to come, the red are what I'm expecting to be left behind. However, even though I've rated Scyther lower than Klefki and Rotom Frost, I actually expect it to come over one of those two Pokemon because I think they want to bring a Terra Captain. I think their best team might bring neither, but I think they probably will bring Scyther. I think it's better than Mismagius. Yeah, I think Latios, Muck, and Iron Treads are great and shoo-ins. Slowking is great and a shoo-in. It's just the last two that could switch out. I could see Graphii coming too, but I reckon 5th and 6th, Klefki and Rotom Frost. So that's it. That's the team. That's the Roserades. I will take you now over to the Pokemon Showdown Team Builder, where we can look at what I did to prepare to combat the assault my opponent was going to bring. So today is the day after Boxing Day. It's December 27th, and I'm pretty tired. I had a good Christmas. It was nice, but I was so exhausted. Yesterday I just crashed out. I got lots of good presents. I got this Ponamu pendant from my girlfriend, which is amazing. I got a light box for sketching wasps, which I need. I've been borrowing my father's. I have to sketch a lot of wasps because I'm trying to get my head around wasp morphology. And it's really intense. It looks like this. So this is actually, it's a wasp, but it's not, it's a sawfly. It doesn't have the wasp waist. It's not a pot critter wasp, but it's a wasp. And if you look, this is just a sketch I've done. It's got these labels of these like words that look incredibly arcane. You go from the mesoscutum to the scape to the, what does that say? The synchros to the metapostnotum. I mean, it's crazy. Every part of a wasp has a name, and it's just a word that you've never heard before. Usually you can figure out what it means from the Latin, but yeah, no, I'm just having to sketch wasps and label the bits. So a light box is great. I got some board games. I got the Sherlock Holmes game, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I had a good time. My presents went over well with the family. It was nice, but I was so wiped out yesterday, and I'm still pretty wiped out today. I say all this because I did this battle weeks ago, and I don't really remember what was going through my head in the team building phase. There wasn't much, to be honest, because I just started back at uni. I was so tired. I think I just loaded 6 sets that I thought were pretty good, did a quick glance at the calcs, and then went in. So these are all like kind of reliable sets. I can still show you some of what they do. So the first is Ursaluna, and if I look that way, it's because the things you're seeing up here, these calcs and stuff, are on my other screen over there. So I'm not trying to snub you by like looking away. I'm in fact looking at what you're looking at, but it's over there. So Ursaluna, we can look at the Blood Moon calcs. It one-shots Rotom, one-shots Graphii, one-shots Scyther, one-shots Klefki with Earth Power, doesn't one-shot Muck, one-shots mismagius, doesn't one-shot Slowking, one-shots Mienshao, one-shots Latios, one-shots Iron Treads. So, of the opponent's team, only Muck and Slowking can withstand Earth Power. I do need Life Orb to get a lot of these kills though. My second Pokemon was Lanturn, standard Assault Vest set, this time with Dazzling Gleam, because their only ice weakness is Scyther, but it's weak to electric anyway, so I don't need coverage for it. I do need Gleam to hit Latios. It's nice to hit Mienshao as well. I'm not KOing with Dazzling Gleam, not even close. You can see 37 to 44 to Latios. It can recover off my Dazzling Gleams, but some kind of chip is better than no chip at all. It's also not great into Assault Vest. Mienshao, without the Assault Vest, it is a 2-hit KO, but with the Assault Vest, it isn't. I don't know. I'm bringing Lanturn because it's a safe pivot. I think if I'd thought about it more, going over this video now, I've looked at it more, I probably should have brought Orthworm instead. Orthworm is at least better suited for their team, but I don't hate Lanturn. I mean, I need a special check, and Lanturn can do the trick in a pinch. Next, we have Mandibuzz. I've given it a Covert Cloak because they can get up rocks with Iron Treads, and that's annoying. But I'm really worried about Poison Touch Muck because I want to be able to switch this into Muck. I can't really switch anything else into Muck reliably. It's either going to be this or Ursaluna. One of those two have to be able to switch in. And I want Ursaluna with a Life Orb, so I kind of felt forced to run Covert Cloak to stop Mandibuzz just dying from poison. I'm weak to rocks though. I'm going to need Hatterene to stop the rocks. The biggest question for this game was what kind of Sneasler set do I want? I could go for the Unburden thing, or I could go for the Choice Band, Choice Scarf, Poison Touch thing. I went with Choice Band. I liked it. I felt like I needed Throat Chop to hit Latios, and I really wanted Throat Chop to kill Latios. The only way I could see to do that was Choice Band. If I don't have Choice Band, I don't do the damage. I don't get this one-hit KO here. And the one-hit KO felt so important to me. I always outspeed, unless they run Scarf, but if they run Scarf, they're weaker. I thought, Latios is by far their biggest threat. With Choice Band, I one-shot it with Throat Chop, and I easily one-shot Iron Treads with Close Combat. And I'm faster than everything anyway. There's no point in Choice Scarf. I'm faster than everything they can do anyway, so I went with this. I think it's just the best thing. I can also U-turn really reliably and hit their Slowking and Latios. If you look at Slowking, 55 to 65 from U-turn. So I'm quite happy to just keep U-turning, keep being annoying. This was my solution to the Latios problem. We'll see in a moment whether it worked out. Then we have Rillaboom. Rillaboom sets have been pretty straightforward. There is a terrain extender set, but I really like the Choice Band. I've never felt in this tournament like I needed the extra turns of grassy terrain. I have played a grassy terrain team on ladder with Heatran and normal Ursaluna. In OU, you can't use Blood Moon, of course, it's banned. But normal Ursaluna really wants the grassy terrain to stay up, because as long as grassy terrain is up, it heals off the burn damage each turn that it takes from Flame Orb. And Heatran really likes the longevity from grassy terrain too. This team that I have here, it doesn't really need the grassy terrain to be up that badly, and it really likes the extra damage on Rillaboom. So the only real question a lot of the weeks for Rillaboom is, do I want high horsepower or do I want Woodhammer? In this battle, I can see it going either way. They're both pretty good into Iron Treads if we compare, because of the grassy terrain and the stab. Even though high horsepower is super effective, Woodhammer still does more. In fact, it's a pretty good roll to Oko, but it's the Muck matchup that I was worried about. I really wanted to be able to hit Muck on the switch, because I think Muck likes to switch into Rillaboom, and high horsepower is the move that gets the KO more often than not. It's also better against Klefki, which is just going to be annoying. Klefki's always going to be annoying, but there are some problems with high horsepower. It's much worse into Rotom. Woodhammer is great into Rotom. Thing is, I think I have enough tools to deal with Rotom. Lanturn is my Rotom switch every time. Nice bolt beam there, buddy. 5 hit KO, 8 hit KO. Yeah, that's really potent. Yeah, so just Choice Band, Rillaboom, and then finally a Hatterene. I didn't want to mess with Trick Room this time. I just wanted a decent, calm mind Hatterene with Nuzzle. I really like Nuzzle because they don't have an electric type. They do have Iron Treads, and Iron Treads is switching into Hatterene a lot. But I've got Mystical Fire for that. I'm happy to just click Mystical Fire into Treads. It does 61 to 72. They might be AV Treads, but I don't think they will be. I think they want rocks. So I'm pretty happy just 2-hit KOing with Mystical Fire. The standard set doesn't run Iron Head, so it can't kill Hatterene. But they probably want Iron Head over Earthquake, because Earthquake is weakened in the terrain anyway. And Iron Head is strong. I mean, it two-shots my Hatterene, but it's not strong enough to seal the matchup if they switch in. In a neutral scenario, we just start together. They do beat me. They hit first, so they Iron Head, I Mystic Fire, they kill me. But they can't switch in. If they switch in, and I'm on full health, they take half their health, they hit me for half my health, and then I kill them. So, yeah, I was pretty happy with Hatterene. I'm leaving behind Orthworm, Comfey, and Arcanine Hisui for the same reason I did in Week 7. It's not that I think Arcanine Hisui and Orthworm are bad, it's just that I wasn't as comfortable with them, and I didn't have much time in my life at that point to prepare. So I thought, I don't really know how to use them as well. I'll stick with what I know, and hope that that's enough to get me through. So that's it. All that remains is the battle. It's the last battle. It's been a real journey. My videos have improved, I think, at least in terms of the production value. I've certainly learned a lot about video editing. I've learned how to do different overlays in OBS, which makes me feel so powerful, like having this. It's just I can show you what it actually is. It's just this, right? I'll have to go over here. It's just this. It's just my desktop, but I've separated up into 3 overlays, and it just makes me feel like a technological genius, which I like. I mean, it's fun. It's been fun. Thank you guys for watching. I do intend to do another one. I don't know exactly what it will look like, because I am going to be really busy in January with my wasps. But I do intend to do another draft league, and of course, after this I'll have the big final tournament video. So look forward to that. Thank you for watching. And yeah, let's jump right into the battle. I load into the battle, and I see this. There are 2 surprises here. The first is they don't have Muck, they instead have Grassy as their poison type. And the second is they did bring one of their Tera Pokemon. They brought Mismagius. Now, I had looked at Mismagius and thought it was basically bad. I hadn't really seen anything powerful that it could do. So when I saw they'd brought it, I thought, oh shoot, have I missed something in its moveset? I mean, I can't claim to be the world's foremost expert on Mismagiuses. So I was a bit worried, but I was also like, no, I think it is bad. And then Grassy, I was a bit scary. I think Grassy is perfectly good against my team. I just thought Muck was better, but Grassy is still scary. It still does its poison type shenanigans, and the versatility that it has makes the battle more annoying, because Muck, for all its strengths, is pretty predictable. So, that is what I see. The first question is, who do I lead? Wow, it's amazingly windy outside. The trees are going crazy. I don't know if you can hear this. You might be able to. It might be like a horrific hum. Yeah, the wind is just howling. Sorry if there's an unbearable amount of background noise. They don't pay me enough to have like a soundproofed studio. I just have my room, so there's not all that much I can do about the wind. If anyone watching this has Zeus's phone number, I would actually be quite appreciative if you could hook us up. I would love to get a line on Zeus. I think I have a lot to offer Zeus in the domain of wasp analysis and Pokemon analysis, and I think that, and I'm willing to burn piglets for him, and I'm willing to give him a portion of my metabolic output in exchange for the ability to mildly control the wind. So if you have Zeus's number, let me know. It's okay if you don't, though. Either way, we can look at the battle. So I thought this was a pretty easy lead, because, as we've seen in my analysis, my sneasler just outspeeds their whole team. I looked at this and I thought, okay, latios, slow king, I just click U-turn and do 1000 damage. Mismagius, I can throat drop. Grassy, I can close combat. Iron Treads, I can close combat. And Klefki, I can close combat. Iron Treads with booster energy is the most annoying thing. It does beat my sneasler. However, I have a relatively safe switch into Ursaluna against Iron Treads, and I like that. I like being in Ursaluna. I've used up their booster energy. I thought, well, we'll lead Sneasler, and we'll see what they lead. I thought they were probably going to lead either Klefki, because it's like a standard lead, or Graphii or Iron Treads. Latios was an option too, but I didn't really consider it at the time. In hindsight, I think it might be a really good lead, especially Scarf Latios. Scarf Latios they probably would have taken a kill. I think I would have U-turned, stayed in and U-turned. If they'd had Scarf Latios, I might have just accidentally snacked. I might have accidentally just snacked on Sneasler on turn 1. But that's not what happened. If we click play, I send in Sneasler, and they send in Klefki. So, turn 1, they click Thunderwave, and it has priority, so it goes first. Now, I clicked Close Combat here, which doesn't kill, but I thought there's not that much Klefki can do. If it's going to set screens up, it's going to set screens up. I can play around that, I can stall them out. I can't really stop them. So I may as well just kill Klefki. And if it's going to paralyze me, so be it. If it wants to switch Roo, so be it. I'll let it do whatever annoying thing it does and just try to kill it. So I click Close Combat, they click Thunderwave. Unfortunately, they get the full para. So that sucks for me. I just got parried for free, and then they get the spikes up. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to lose because they full parried turn 1. It's kind of the worst case scenario. But I thought, okay, well, fine, I'll click Close Combat again, see if I can do what I wanted to do on turn 1 on turn 2. And I get it. I hit 75% of their health. Okay, so Klefki is neutered. Turn 3 was very interesting. I thought, are they going to stay in with Klefki? I don't think so. I thought that they had their spike, they had their para. I heard the voice of BKC in my head saying, the second layer of spikes isn't that great. I didn't think they wanted to sack Klefki for it. So I thought they were going to switch. I thought they can switch into Latios for free now and take my close combat. I thought maybe they wouldn't, because they don't know that I'm choice banned. Although actually they do, don't they? Because they've seen my damage output. But I wouldn't really think of that at the time. I was like, well, maybe they think I'm not choice banned. They think I can click throat drop or something. But I figured they were going to switch here. And I thought, I'll just hit something on the switch. But they didn't. In fact, they clicked Torment, which is hilarious. Torment is one of these moves that you never see. Stops you clicking the same move twice in a row. And I'm choice logged. I have to click Close Combat. Now, this turn, my Close Combat is still going to go through. Because the way Torment works is, if you've already clicked a move, it's fine, it'll go through, you can't use it next turn. So I thought, okay, I'm tormented, but I want to kill the Klefki, right? Full para again. So at the end of turn 3, I've had 1 turn out of 3, and now I'm locked into struggle. I can't click Close Combat because of the Torment. Their Klefki is still alive, and I'm struggling. I literally, if I want to attack, I'm clicking struggle, and it doesn't kill. If I stay in, I will do more damage to myself than the opponent. So I have to switch out. And I think, who the heck do I switch out to? Whoever I switch out to, they're probably going to paralyze or get another layer of spikes up against, but there isn't much I can do about that. So I thought, let's just go into Ursaluna, and I can't be paralyzed, which is good. The other option was Hatterene to bounce the spikes and Thunderwave back, but I felt like I would prefer to just go for the damage and then defog the spikes away rather than us both having a spike. So I go into Ursaluna and they go into Slowking, which is a great play by them, right? Because we've both switched, but their switch is really dominant in this matchup. Ursaluna is weak to Slowking, so it's going to take a lot of damage. Slowking's special defense is great, and if I switch, they can chilly reception and maintain the momentum. I thought, okay, well, I can't stay in a Blood Moon. I'm just going to lose. So I switch again. I'm like, oh, I've got these spikes, they're so annoying. So I switch again to Rillaboom, beat Slowking, right, of course. And they click Scold. Now, when I did the switch, I thought they would click Scold, but then I switched and I was like, wait, what if they click Ice Beam? Because Ice Beam also beats Ursaluna, but now it would beat Rillaboom too, and that sounds really annoying. I thought maybe I should have gone into Lantern, because Lantern resists like everything Slowking can do. It can use Discharge, it can pivot out, but luckily I got the prediction right. I managed to switch in, and I didn't get burned. And not getting burned, it turns out, was a game-winning decision, because on the next turn, I clicked Knock Off, and they switched in their Latios, and it died in one hit. Now, this sucks for them, right? It's very, very unfortunate for them. Latios was their strongest Pokemon against my team, and now it's dead. I think that they made a read, right? They basically said, he's going to click Wood Hammer or Grassy Glide. Here's where I get Latios in on a resisted hit. Thing is, I just thought Knockoff looked so free, because their only Dark Resist is Klefki, which would die to it anyway because it's so weakened. It kills Mismagius, it chunks Iron Treads, I think it kills Graphii, and obviously it kills Latios. I thought Knockoff just looked so good. U-turn looked okay too, for momentum, but then they can go into Iron Treads and kind of not take much damage. So the Knockoff just looked so good from my end. I thought it looked better than Wood Hammer. And it paid off, right? They lost the Latios. Now, they haven't lost the game here, but it's suddenly really, really hard for my opponent. I think they were like doing fine, but missing the read is just unfortunate. Now, I don't necessarily think it was like a terrible play. If it had worked, if I had clicked Grass type move, then it would be a good play, right? They'd had the Latios in, it's got specs, we can see because I knocked them off. I would have had to struggle to deal with it. It's not a bad play, but it's a very risky one. And unfortunately for them, the risk wasn't worth the reward. So now I was like so happy. I was like, okay, maybe I actually will be qualifying for this tournament. I've killed their biggest threat, but I could still choke. The burn, I say, was game winning, because if I'd got burned by Scold, I wouldn't have killed the Latios. I had to switch. They would have a lot more play. Latios goes down, and they bring in Graphii. I don't know what the heck this is going to do, but it's a poison type, so I guess I'll switch. Bring in Mandibuzz. It's got Covert Cloak, remember? The Covert Cloak was actually for Muck, but it works against Graphii too. And they go for the Sword Stance. I think this was kind of a desperation move, right? They hilariously bought Grassy Seed Unburdened Graphii to take advantage of my grassy terrain. It was slightly risky, because maybe I wouldn't have brought Rillaboom, but I did bring Rillaboom. So it's clever, right? It's cool. Grassy Seed Unburdened. Graphii, they're doing my Sneasler against me. Thing is, I don't think they wanted to bring it out this early, but without the Latios, they were kind of backed into a corner, and Rillaboom is the best entry point for the Graphii. Unfortunately for them, I have Foul Play, and they've just doubled their attack, and Graphii just isn't that strong. It's so much weaker than Sneasler. And Mandibuzz is a pretty good check, so they just have to switch out. I Foul Play, hit the Klefki for nothing, but it doesn't really matter. And now we're back to this Sneasler versus Klefki thing again. It's just like the lead, except they're down a Latios, which is pretty good for me. They click Draining Kiss, but Klefki is incredibly weak. It would have done nice healing against Mandibuzz, but it's too weak to really make a dent on Sneasler. And and I'm happy, right? I'm going to try to click close combat again. I've been parried 2 out of 3 times, so I figure now's my time. I know statistically it's still just the same odds, but it's hard to get out of that psychological, you know, I've done my time with being full parried. Now's the chance to hit with close combat. So I give it my best shot. They heal up a bunch from Grassy Terrain and Draining Kiss. They bring in Mismagius though. But it doesn't matter, because I clicked close combat. Now, amazingly, the para was kind of good, right? If I had not been full parried, I would have clicked close combat into the Mismagius and done 0%. But because I got full parried, I'm not choice locked into close combat. Now maybe it doesn't matter because I probably want to click close combat here, but they did have the potential to choice lock me, and they didn't. The full parry didn't matter there, is what I'm saying. I have been full parried 3 out of 4 times, but that one, it was either meaningless or actually slightly in my favor to get paralyzed. So then I click Throat Chop, and I click Throat Chop because I think they're going to switch to something again. They're not going to just let Klefki stay in, and maybe they think like I'm choice locked into close combat or something, but no, they stay in, and now I'm locked into Throat Chop, and I think, oh shoot, I should have just close combated. This Klefki won't die. I keep coming within like punching distance of it, but it just won't actually die. So I switch to Hatterene on the spikes. I'm like, okay, they've been pretty happy to click Thunderwave in spikes against me, and I haven't been bringing Hatterene in. I should just bring Hatterene in, bounce back the hazards, bounce back the spikes. If I look at what moves it knows, I know all 4 of its moves. It's Thunderwave, Spikes, Torment, and Draining Kiss. None of those Hatterene cares about. All of those, it'll bounce 3 of them back, and Draining Kiss will do 2%. So Hatterene is such a safe switch into Klefki. It doesn't have screens or anything. It's just incredibly passive against Hatterene. They'll have to switch out. So I go Hatterene, and I bounce the spikes back. And that's great. Now we both have a spike. Hallelujah. They go to Iron Treads, obviously thinking to get rid of the spike. But I clicked Mystical Fire, and the Iron Treads is chunked like heck. They now have the option to stay in and hit me with a Iron Head. But I remembered from my calc that it's not going to kill, unless they're like choice banned. It's not going to kill. But then I looked and I saw, oh, that booster energy attack, which is not as much as choice band, but it is a boost. So I was not sure if Iron Head would kill. Suddenly I thought, maybe it'll kill. But because they switched straight into this the moment I reflected the spikes, I thought they were going to rapid spin. I thought they're just going to rapid spin, right? Surely. So I click Mystical Fire again. So I click Iron Head, and I do survive it. The calcs were fine. I knew I was going to survive it neutrally. If they had a choice band, I would have died, but they didn't. They were booster energy. It's a bit weaker. My Hatterene was just bulky enough to survive the Iron Head and kill back. And now those spikes are sticking for the rest of the game. Here comes Mismagius. I'm pretty sure I just Mystical Fire here. No, I nuzzled. Okay, that was clever past me. Well, Mystical Fire was fine too. But I remember thinking, Mismagius is going to Calm Mind. That seems like what it's going to do if they've saved it. It's got Terra, it's going to Calm Mind. What I need to do is stop it from snowballing. What I really didn't want to do is give it a free turn by switching out of Hatterene. I thought, if I just give it the Calm Mind, maybe it could lose. So I'm going to force them to kill me. I'm not going to let them just set up. I'm going to force them to kill me. And I have the tools to be so annoying that they have to. So step 1 is nuzzle them, which is great. I mean, I'll slow them down. I'll have the odds to full parry them like I've been full parried. That seems good. Step 2 is Mystical Fire and just stop them from ever boosting their special attack. They can raise their SPDF, but who cares? I'll just throat chop them with Sneasler after they kill Hatterene. So I'm just going to spam Mystical Fire until the cows come home. They start clicking Calm Mind, and I think, nah, we'll just Mystical Fire. The crit's pretty lucky for me there. The damage is really nice. They're Draining Kiss, but it doesn't quite kill. Mystical Fire again. Now their special attack is back to neutral. I'm just going to keep clicking it till I die. And I die. And that Mismagius is not that scary looking. It's not even faster than my Rillaboom anymore. It does have higher base speed with 105, but it's paralyzed, so it's not. And sure, it's got 2 special defense boosts, but I've got a bunch of physical Pokemon. I've got Rillaboom and Sneasler. They both have a dark type move. I'm not afraid. I do think if the Tera's coming, it's coming now. Because Mismagius is their only Tera Pokemon, it's going to die. They may as well Tera. The options are Fire or Fairy. If they have Fire, it looks pretty good against me, just because Fire beats Grass. But I wasn't sure if they would have Fire. They do. I just click Knockoff, and it kills anyway. If they'd had Fairy, they would have lived the Knockoff, but they would have died to the Grass move, and the game would be afoot. But it was just a straight 50-50. Like, Knockoff and Grassy Glide both killed the neutral one, so it was if they're Fire, I got to click Knockoff, if they're Fairy, I got to click Grassy Glide. I predicted right, but it was just a 50-50. In comes Grafaiai, and it's too little too late. Now, it can click physical moves, but I have Mandibuzz. They're on borrowed time. I foul play the Klefki, it almost dies, but it's annoying. I think I'm going to get rid of these spikes once and for all. I let the Klefki heal back up. But now this is just a game of borrowed time. They don't have the offensive power anymore to stop me. So I managed to get Blood Moon in, and they're on a clock, right? They can play around, they can maneuver. They might be able to get another kill or two, increase their kill differential. But it's too late for them to win. Unless I, like, highly choke. But this game is hard to choke. I'm so favored. So, yeah, I'll let this play out. But I did win this game, putting my final record at 5 wins and 3 losses, which was enough to qualify. So, hooray! I've qualified for the tournament. I've done it. I've achieved my dreams. My opponent went 3-5 and didn't qualify, which is sad because, like, I hate to gatekeep someone from the qualifiers, and they were really close. They were really close. I think that if things had played out slightly differently for them, they would easily be able to qualify. But, you know, sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you get unlucky, and it's just the way with the game of Pokemon. But that was it. So that's the end of my 3-month-long journey in Pokemon Draft League. I will have a tournament video sooner or later. We'll have to play the tournament. I'm going to do that all in one, and I'm going to change the format a bit. I'm going to do less team review and just focus on the battles, because that seems exciting to me. There's been a few already, and they're pretty interesting. There's some real dramatic moments. So, yeah, we'll focus on all the battles, and we'll see who wins. So stay tuned for that. Probably won't come out for a month or so, though, because I've got to wait for all the games to be done, and then I'll have to record and edit the whole thing. And I'm starting back with my Wasps on the 6th of January. So it'll be a little while. So, let's catch back up to where we were. We began in week 0 with everyone coming out ahead, and the Pyroars took an early lead. We were keeping pace in 2nd place for a decent amount of the tournament, until in weeks 6 and 7 we lost 2 in a row, leading us to this point. Now the top 8 qualify. As you can see, we're currently in the top 7. If these were the final standings, one of the 3-win people would still qualify based on kill differential. Let's see how it looks after week 8. There we go. So, we qualify. We're in the top 8. In fact, we're 6th place overall in the tournament, which is good. I'm happy to have qualified. 6th is perfectly fine. We're 6th because the Ursalunas have a better kill differential than I do. In fact, my kill differential is pretty terrible. What that means is that everyone above me qualifies, the Heatmores qualify at 4 wins, 4 losses, and then one player from the 3 wins, 5 losses also qualifies based on kill differential. So kill differential is how many enemies you've killed versus how many of your Pokemon have been killed. In practice, it rewards closer games. So if you lost every game 6-0, you would have a terrible kill differential, but if you're having these neck-and-neck games, that's the tiebreaker. And the person who qualified from the 3 wins bracket is the Bulbasaurs. These 8 Pokemon are our 8 teams that will be competing in the upcoming tournament. The Pyroars, the favourites to win, of course, undefeated in the championship. 8 wins, 0 losses. Then Haxorus, Lucario, and Brambleghast, each with a respectable 6-2. Me and Ursaluna, 5 wins, 3 losses each. And then Heatmore and Bulbasaur trailing, but it's anyone's game to play for. The format of the tournament is a single elimination bracket, and it's seeded. So the Bulbasaurs, the 8th seed, will be facing the Pyroars, the 1st seed, in round 1. We will be facing the 3rd seed, so the 3rd place Pokemon, because we're 6th, and that is, I believe, the Lucarios. The tournament's going to take place over a month. It's currently ongoing in real time. So, I will see you probably not for a little while. Although I do intend, I want to make some like short form guides. If any of you have watched Jamie Boyd, he's a good channel. He's currently putting out these Grand Challenge VGC videos, which I've been enjoying. Go subscribe to Jamie Boyd. He's a good team builder. He is compelling. I hope he wins the Worlds. I don't think you're washed, Jamie. You're good. All you got to do is get a bit lucky, and you will win Worlds. I full support. Anyway, he did these videos when Pokemon Scarlet came out, and then when the each DLC came out, which were like 5-minute guides on each Pokemon in the tier. He went through every single fully evolved Pokemon in the Pokemon Scarlet Pokedex. Some of them were like 3-second videos. It was great. He was like, Furret, F tier, don't use. Next. I kind of want to do that. I'm not going to do all the like PU Pokemon though, because I don't have that much time. But I would like to do like 3 to 5 minute guides on each of the viable Pokemon in. I'll start with OU. OU's the one I've played the most. Yeah, I might be able to do one a day, but realistically it'll be more like a couple a week. And that's my next kind of project while we wait for this to go on. Sooner or later I'll be back with a new draft, a new team. We will put the ethical rattatas aside and have a new theme. For now, that's it. Thank you all so much for watching. It's been an honor and a privilege to present to you this draft league over the last 3 months. And shout out to all 15 of my other competitors. You guys have been great. It's been fun reading the chat, and I haven't been posting the chat that much lately because I've been super busy, but it's been fun. The draft was fun. I hope you all do well. For the people who didn't qualify, you guys can do it. There has to be some who get knocked out, which is tragic. Today it wasn't me, but if there's another one, I look forward to seeing you guys in a championship match someday. That's it for me. See you guys in 2025.